Yeah, it says Joses, and
Yeah.
I think that's probably the Hispanic version of Jesus. Right, Imelda? Yeah. Don't know why it's there, but it's kind of fun when it happens that way. The image on the screen and the statue in my hand are both called Inukshuks. Inuksshuk. Inukshuks. An Inukshuk was a stone structure built by travelers in the Arctic wilderness. The stones were gathered from the immediate area and built into a design that looks almost human. And it was a stone marker left to let the next traveler know. Oh, do I not have my speaker on? My voice thing wasn't on. Online, folks, I'm so sorry. I apologize to you. It's an Inukshuk. It's a stone marker in the Arctic left by travelers so that others would see it and recognize it, to know that they were on the right path. When a traveler saw an Inukshuk on the horizon, they knew that that was the way to travel. The Inukshuk was built often to honor or venerate a family member who knew how to live in the wilderness, but it was left as a sign to say to the travelers coming after them that you're on the right path, and if you are out of food, if you are in a place of an emergency, there's a cache of food and water left for you there. So that when you go, don't worry, the people who built the Inukshuk will resupply it. When we look for the Inukshuk on the horizon, we know we're going in the right path, that we're safe, that we will be cared for, that we'll be okay. And in a land with few discernible features, and hour after hour of either darkness or hour after hour of light, an Inukshuk was a sign that the traveler would be safe and they were going the right way. The travelers saw an Inukshuk on the horizon and they knew they were going to be all right. Now when Jesus was killed on a cross, his followers had no way to mark. Sorry, buddy. Oh, can you tell it's daylight savings? His followers had no way to mark their path. There were no stone markers to show them where to go next. They were lost in a world of confusion and grief. Their new world had no discernible features so that they would know which path to go. They were confused. They were afraid. They didn't know what to do next. When Jesus was killed on a cross, he had no place for his body to be laid because he chose his followers, his disciples, and they gladly left everything to follow him. They left everything because they knew Jesus would know the way they should travel. He would be their Inukshuk, showing them the right path, making sure that they had security for their soul and body, making sure that there would always be enough food. As long as they followed Jesus, they knew they would be okay. He was their Inukshuk, their stone marker, providing for their physical, spiritual, and emotional needs. Now, when he died, there was no place to put his body. In the first century of Israel, families carved small caves into rocky hills as tombs to put their families' remains. Jesus had no place to go. The openings to the caves were covered with small stones that could be lifted or rolled away from the opening when it was time for the next family member to go to their resting place. Now, Joseph of Arimathea was wealthy enough to have built a large tomb for all of his family members. Joseph was one of those people in the Bible who respected Jesus and respected his way, but he couldn't risk following him. He had listened to Jesus and he had engaged Jesus in conversation, and he was smart enough to know that Jesus' followers had gone into hiding. So with nobody to care for his body, Rome was content to let his remains hang on the cross until it was devoured by birds or wild animals. That's what Rome did. Crucifixion was a deterrent. It was an ugly way to die, and the bodies were not allowed to be taken down. So others would look at that and say, I don't want to end up like that, and I don't want my family to have to deal with my ending up like that. But Joseph respected Jesus, and he knew that his followers and family members would need a place to come and remember and to lay down their grief. So he put Jesus in his family tomb and had the tomb sealed with a stone big enough and heavy enough to make sure the body was safe, not just from animals, but from grave robbers. Because first century Israel had a lot of grave robbing going on. It was one way people could find valuables and get along for a while. Joseph provided an inukshuk to honor Jesus and a spiritual place for those who need to know where to travel next. Now, Christians have built stone markers throughout the world, and these stone markers are called churches. We have built stone markers over time, and our churches either turn into inukshuks or they turn into tombs. We build churches hoping they will be inukshuks, hoping that people will see them and come to them as a place to find the right path. The travelers will see the church and recognize it as a place to feed their souls and to feed their bodies. We hope people will look at our churches and we will be able to provide guidance. And through the Spirit, we'll be able to nurture souls and bodies. That's our hope. But too often, churches become tombs. Places where people come to remember what was. Places to look at and say, remember the old days? Remember how wonderful it was? Places that aren't looked at as places of life or places of guidance, but places to come and remember and mourn. Now clearly, God was not interested in remembering Jesus in a tomb. The stone markers that God invites us to build are not tombs to remember Jesus, but rather inukshuks, where we can learn the path that Jesus has for us. Inukshuks, where we can find nourishment for our bodies and our souls. Places to stop along the journey, to remember where we want to walk, how God is calling us to move forward. And every generation decides whether a church is going to be an inukshuk or a tomb. Every generation makes decisions about the life of their church that determine whether it's going to continue to be a place where people come to find the right path, a place where people come to nourish their souls and their bodies, or if it's going to be a place where people come to sit and remember the good old days and to mourn what might have been. We are worshiping today in an inukshuk. Lakeshore congregation is not a tomb. We have built our churches as places to nourish souls and bodies. We have built our stone markers as places where we can find guidance for the journey ahead. We have built our churches to honor Jesus and to share his way of life and living. Because let's face it, friend, too many churches in our denomination, too many churches in our community, and too many churches in our world have become tombs where people gather not to look forward, but where people gather to remember what was. Where people come to mourn the loss of the past and to wish they could go back. There are places where people gather not to serve the needs of the travelers, but rather to serve their own needs. Too many churches in our denomination, our community, and our world have become tombs because they have forgotten why they exist. Too many churches are tombs, and Lakeshore right now is an inukshuk. We are a stone marker providing refreshment for soul and body as we do our best to follow Jesus' way. Lakeshore is here not just to serve our members. We are here to serve the travelers who pass through our doors. We are here not to remember the good old days, what was, and to mourn what might have been. We are here to look to the path ahead of us, to ask God where we are called to go so that other travelers can find the right path, so other travelers can be nourished in their souls and their bodies. We are here to serve God's people inside and beyond our walls. God bless you. We are here to make sure others know that they are on the right path. And if they are lost, we are here to help the traveler find the right path again. We are here not to be a tomb. We are here to be an inukshuk, a living stone marker of God's way. Because our world has more than enough churches that look and act like tombs. Our world desperately needs Lakeshore to be an inukshuk, a living, breathing stone marker. But building an inukshuk takes planning. We can't just look at the building and say, wow, we're doing some pretty good stuff right now. Let's just keep doing the same stuff. Building an inukshuk takes planning. Preparing for the next generation takes planning. Preparing for travelers looking for the right path takes planning. So we as a congregation are going to get together on 2 Saturday mornings in April. Everyone is invited who wants to be there, April 16th and April 23rd. Go ahead and put those down in your smartphones or use the pencils in the pews to write it on your bulletin and take it home so you remember. April 16th and April 23rd. We will gather between 8:30 in the morning to 12:30 in the afternoon, 8:30 to noon 30 as I call it. And we're going to talk together about how to prepare our church to be an inukshuk for the next generation. How we can make sure that we are here, alive and vital, so that 20 years from now, our children and our grandchildren look to us and say, thank God. Our parents and our grandparents built an inukshuk and not a tomb. Thank God our parents and our grandparents cared about the travelers coming through. We're going to talk about programs to meet the needs of the 12,000 people in our community who have no faith involvement. We're going to talk about the facilities we need to support those programs. We're going to talk about our ability to financially support the staff and the buildings and the programs to meet those needs. And we're going to talk about the kind of staffing we need to support all the volunteers who are going to serve God by serving God's people. April 16th, April 23rd, 8:30 to 12:30. If you are listening online, we want you to be involved. And we have a way for that to happen. Please send me your email address. And I will send you an invitation to join us on GoToMeeting those 2 Saturday mornings. If you are a member of the congregation here today and you cannot be present that time, send me your email address so I can send you an invitation to join us on GoToMeeting, because every voice is going to be important. The decisions we make now are going to determine whether we are an inukshuk or a tomb 20 years from now. I can't stress enough how important these 2 Saturday mornings will be. I believe God has called Lakeshore not to be a tomb, a place to come and worship the past. I believe that God has called Lakeshore to be an inukshuk, where people who are traveling through our community, people who are lost, can come and look and say, we've reached the right path. Thank God we found a place to nourish our souls and nourish our bodies. I believe God has called us to prepare the next generation to set forth so that when they reach the horizon, they can build an inukshuk for those coming after them. This is who we are called to be, my friends. People who build not monuments to the past, but living stone markers to the future. I will look for you April 16th and April 23rd. Have I said it enough times that it's in your heads? April 16th, April 23rd. And together, we will look for the path God has prepared for us. Together, we will make sure 20 years from now, our children and our grandchildren give thanks to God for the inukshuk we have built for them. Amen? Amen. Amen. We have the opportunity to support the inukshuk we have today, to support the programs and the facilities, to make sure that we have staff to support volunteers, to make sure that we can reach out into our community by giving our time and our talents, and right now, by giving our gifts, tithes, and offerings. Let's make sure we are stocked so that people can come here and find exactly what they need. Ushers, please wait upon us.